Yes, no, thanks for getting us those updates. Hey, let's also welcome in Sreesankar, Head for Institutional Equities at Prabhudas Lilladher, who's joining us this morning. Sreesankar, thanks so much for joining in. What's the outlook? What's the understanding as far as markets are concerned? Because the last couple of days, it's getting extremely jittery and it's been extremely difficult to call the market as well. Looking at the way the kind of movement that we've picked up, well, what's your strategy?
We have had the market strategy for the last 3 months at least in this range bound from around 5,800 to 6,500. What we see going forward is, because as you rightly mentioned about the jittery scenario out there, probably the 6,500 seems to be capped, and that has got reduced by around 100 points to 6,400 at the top, and at the bottom we see probably at around 5,700 at the moment. So the market still continues to be in the trading range between 5,700 to 6,400 for the near term.
Sreesankar, counting it down to the market opening, but very quickly your perspective as far as the telecom auctions were concerned?
Government had budgeted to get in around 20,000 crores in the current year, current fiscal, from the telecom actions. Probably our estimated they would have fallen short by a few thousand crores about it. So definitely whatever money that they get, it's a big positive. It should be able to bridge the deficit.
You know, Sri, in fact, we're going to come back and get your thoughts more in terms of stock specific as well as far as Bharti and Idea are concerned, because those two stocks, as we count down to the market opening, will be on the radar. And you're also keeping an eye out for ONGC numbers. Remember, came in post-market hours, and there's been a huge jump in terms of the bottom line, but that's predominantly coming in on the back of that huge jump in the other income component. So that one also stands to that one also will be in focus. No doubt SBI will be the big one that'll be reporting numbers today. So keep an eye out for that stock. Just counting down, and we're getting the opening quotes coming in right now as well for you as far as the index is concerned. And well, it's an 87, 88 point uptick that we're seeing in terms of opening. Bharti starts the day off on a cautious note, 1% higher is what we've seen. And you got all the 30 stocks, all right, almost majority of the stocks in positive is what we're seeing. So it's a decent start after yesterday's sell-off that the market saw. Now, Tata Motors, 1.5% gain on that counter, one of the top gainers so far. SBI is holding on, 0.2% up move on that one. Bharti marginally in green is what we're seeing, 1.5 gain. ONGC, as I've been saying, the numbers have been pretty much in line. 0.5% gain as what we're seeing for that, 0.5% cut now is what we're seeing for that counter. ITC also losing out a tad bit. ICICI Bank, 0.5%. Axis Bank's trading positive. L&T up by nearly 0.5%. Cipla also, after yesterday's carnage, just recovering a little bit in terms of trade. But Bharti now just stabilizing to a gain of roughly around 1.5% is what we're seeing so far. Reliance Industries, 0.3% gain. Sun Pharma, remember, had a US FDA approval coming in. That stock's up almost 2% and is probably on the top performers on the index. Quick mention on the Nifty for you. Let's pull that index up for you as well. Nifty gaining marginally by 30 odd points, 31 gaining, 18 odd stocks losing out, and just 1 odd stock trading flat. Names that are on the move. Sun Pharma is one of the top gainers, 1.5% gain there. Tata Motors also showing some strong momentum. Bharti, after the overhang regarding 2G auction, probably is behind us, is trading higher. Bank of Baroda and Tata Steel all showing some good momentum. In terms of losers today, it's Ultratech in the morning session that's taking a huge knock, 1.7% there. Bajaj Auto, BHEL, Kotak Mahindra Bank, and Grasim once again just seeing a little bit of a downtick. So Tanvi, that's the way openings panned out, at least 15 to 16 points higher, 6015. Telecom stocks so far are trading a little bit on the positive bias.
They are, Priyank. Idea Cellular is up by 2.5% at this point of time. You've got Reliance Communications also that's showing us good gains of over 1%, along with Bharti, of course, like Priyank was mentioning. So let's try and understand what's happening there. Sreesankar, Head for Institutional Equities at Prabhudas Lilladher, is with us. Sreesankar, we were talking about the telecom pack and the way auctions panned out. Of course, from the government's point of view, it's great. The stocks today are trading in the green. Do you think the kind of debt impact or the overhang of auctions has already been priced in? Or will there be a longer-term concern in terms of the money that they're coughing out and the increased competition?
I think it will take some more time for the dust to settle. Everybody takes cognizance of the fact that what's the kind of money which you spent and what's the kind of return that you're going to see in each of these segments, etc., or circles. And I think it's too early to make a comment on it, because we have already seen news reports which keeps coming in how much is the kind of capex that each of these players requires. And I saw one news report which said that somebody like Vodafone requires closer to 20,000 crores in terms of a payout. And our ballpark estimate is most of the players will have a large amount of capex going forward, closer to $1 billion, or depending upon how much they have bid and so on and so forth. So one needs to wait and see what's the kind of capex which goes in, what's the kind of return everybody is expecting, etc. So I think too early to make a comment on it right now.
All right, telecom stocks clearly on the radar. 2% on Bharti, you got a 3.2% gain on Idea. Arcom also is up roughly around 1.5% is what we've been gathering. So all those counters faring pretty well in trade. But the other sector or the other focus area today is on the banking pack, Sri, and SBI is all slated to report its earnings today. What are your thoughts when we talk about this sector? Anything that you're watching out for from SBI? Because that's the big one from the banking sector point of view.
We have a strategy for the banking and financial services sector where we are neutral as a sector. But within that sector, we are overweight the private sector banks and underweight the public sector banks. Our view is that as long as the economy continues to be in this state, there is going to be increased level of stressed assets, be it in terms of NPA front, be it in terms of restructuring. And consequently, there will also be a lot more provisioning which requires. I do not think that these are going to change in a hurry unless we see the economic growth itself improving. So be it SBA, it's going to be continuously going to be under pressure in terms of stressed assets. Whether you call it as again as NPAs or restructuring, that's a different issue. That's number one. Number two, where we'd like to look at it more is the pre-provisioning operating profit growth. Where that's before you make your provisions for bad and doubtful debts and so on and so forth. So I think that's the key for us. So in our view, SBA still remains as a back of the public sector bank. We are underweight. However, because of the price corrections that these stocks have actually gone through, some have actually started becoming looking interesting from a pure valuation front. That's it.
Sreesankar, M&M also comes out with its numbers today, Auto Pack in focus. We've seen that the auto ancillary companies, even the rubber tire companies have been doing quite well. On the other hand, some of your four-wheeler companies have been facing quite a bit of pressure. What's the outlook for this sector and particularly, a company like M&M?
Again, the numbers have not been, if you look at the basket per se for M&M, in some segments, if you see the improvement happening, in some other segments, the volumes are down. But when you mention about auto companies or ancillary companies, especially the rubber or the tire companies, the lower natural rubber prices has been resulting into improved operating margins or improved profitability for the tire companies. However, what we need to look at the kind of increase that you have seen in other raw material costs, be it the SBR or be it the tire cord or whatever kind of, be it carbon black, etc. So to a great extent, the lower natural rubber prices have been offset by the increase in other raw materials as well.
What about the oil and gas pack, Sri? That's the other one. I mean, ONGC came out with earnings. You got most of them actually come out already from the sector. We've been tracking a couple of the OMCs as well. Any thoughts on that sector? I mean, ONGC in today's trade is just trading marginally lower is what we're seeing so far there. 2 to 3% cut.
I think most of these companies which has got a regulatory overhang in terms of the returns or the profits that they can generate is going to have is going to rather move in a narrow range. Because I don't think that right now you're going to see anything which is going to change that any kind of profitability for these companies from a regulatory point of view. Unless you see a definitive action coming in, which gives a clear-cut idea of how these profits of these companies keep happening going forward, I don't think much interest will come back into these kind of stocks. The reason is today you are not sure how much is going to be the subsidies that ONGC will have to share, and so on and so forth. So I don't think that from the institutional investors' point of view, you're going to see a lot of these companies. It's going to be something very attractive for many of them. If at all you find a lot of index funds, our estimate is that for the weight in the particular index, they may have closer to a position closer to that. That's it.
Sreesankar, we're almost at the fag end of the corporate earnings season. What really did you make of it in terms of the performance that various sectors have put?
I think given the state the economy is in, capital goods have underperformed or rather disappointed. Engineering companies and construction companies have disappointed. You have seen automobiles coming under pressure. The only saving grace was Tata Motors JLR numbers, which is again not the domestic, representing the domestic economy. IT has given a better results, and you have seen FMCGs reasonably better. Healthcare companies continue to do well, and that's been it's more or less in line with the expectations. This performance also has, which has come in.
All right, market still holding on firm. 0.3% gain is what we're seeing right now. Just a quick mention, a couple of the mid-cap stocks that are catching the eye right now, at least in the opening moves that we're seeing. In terms of some of the volume buzzers, MCX India showing a decent up move, 4.5% is what we're seeing. Future retail's up 3.5%. You got DB Corp, InfoEdge, well, marginal volumes on InfoEdge so far. A couple of the telecom stocks, Idea's now shot up 5%. Just pull up the intraday chart on as far as Idea is concerned for you. You'll see a little bit of a spike on that counter, 5% gain. And remember, we've been trying to analyze that as well with the analysts, where it seems that the kind of entry Idea's actually got into Delhi is a good strategic move, is what analysts seem to be making of it. Bharti Airtel trading higher by roughly around 2%. So that stock also seeing a little bit of activity. Beyond that, Z Entertainment's down 1.8%. MCX, yes, 4% higher. Arcom also seeing some good moves today. That stock's up roughly around 2%. So the entire telecom pack, post the auction being concluded, is seeing a decent amount of an uptick, is what we're seeing so far. So Sri, as we wrap up our conversation, what are some of the stocks that are on your radar right now and that you've been advising clients?
See, as a sector, we continue to believe that it is going to be an IT and pharma story, at least in the near term. Unless you see a lot of change in the economy, recovery, and unless the recovery starts kicking in, it's very difficult to say that whether capital goods will start to move in, improve, and you will see a lot of others. The automobile will start to improve, etc. Till the time today we know what is the auction. Auction is over for telecom. What is the kind of money that everybody has to pay, and now everybody has to start analyzing what kind of returns and what kind of capex these people need to do, apart from the spectrum license fee that they have to pay, and what's the kind of return that you're going to give. You're going to get it, and it's quite unlikely that everyone will be a beneficiary to that extent. So it will take some time, as I said, for the telecom pack for the dust to settle and people start analyzing and how these things are. In the current environment, it's still overweight for us in IT and healthcare.
All right, Sreesankar, we leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us this morning with your thoughts on the markets and some strategies. Take a look at the markets, recovering quite a bit from yesterday. Sensex is up by about